to win their first title since 1997. The Washington Huskies hope to cap an undefeated season with their first national championship in over 30 years.
And he fires a fastball. Are you kidding me?
Monday at 7:30 Eastern, hear the national broadcast on ESPN Radio, Channel 80, the Michigan Call on Channel 81, Washington Broadcast Channel 84, and all the action is on the SiriusXM app.
Imagine a long road trip where the designated DJ isn't forced to flip from station to station, avoiding commercials and trying desperately to find a signal, where you're not forced to resort to endless rounds of the license plate game to kill time. Stop imagining and start listening to commercial-free music from nearly every genre, coast to coast. Subscribe to SiriusXM, and your music stays with you wherever you hit the interstate or take the back roads. Call 844-711-8800 to activate your radio now.
SiriusXM Video lets you watch your favorite SiriusXM shows on the SiriusXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in a way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artist you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $8.33 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
Filled with ad-free music made for everything you do, mashup channels, workout channels, channels for parties, or just chilling out and more. Expertly curated for any mood, occasion, or activity. Extra channels let you discover new music and enjoy even more variety from every decade and music style you love. Plus, you can watch some of your favorite SiriusXM shows with SiriusXM Video. And you can do it all along with listening in your car as part of our music and entertainment plan. Right now, we're offering SiriusXM subscription plans for as low as $6 a month, plus fees and taxes. Call 844-711-8800 to find out more about these amazing offers.
Connect with the R&B and hip-hop that's hot now. Discover who's next. And stay up on the culture.
Cause Drake don't know how to kiss and not tell.
On the heat.
Girl, your BD is a zero. Back shot sound like bongo.
Channel 46 and on the SiriusXM app. Included in all trials and popular plans.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018148688.
Storytelling. Before we're going to go on stage, you need a few minutes to just kind of get yourself set for what's about to happen, because it's almost like a carnival ride.
Now, for a limited time on Channel 79, for the SiriusXM app, included in all trials and popular plans.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Jonathan of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, of the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me, the people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day, January the 8th in 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers. home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you, where the good Lord split you, if that makes sense to you. Got a lot of football to get into. Got the national championship happening tonight. The last one for the Pac-12 conference, and that to me is a shame. But it's because of TV and money and revenue, and they did not do it right in the Pac-12 conference. They will be joining the Big Ten conference for some of the schools, and obviously Washington is one of those schools that will join the Big Ten next year, but now they're trying to fight to play against the Big Ten champion, Michigan Wolverines, Washington's the Pac-12 champion, Huskies, and I'm going to get that to you. You can follow Big C Sports on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. You can follow on Google, Alexa, Spotify, Speaker Podcast, Apple Podcast, TuneIn Podcast, Good Pods Podcast, Amazon Podcast, iHeartRadio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast. Give that some praise. You can find us on Podcast Addict, Podchaser. You can also follow Big C Sports on Geosavan out of London, England, as well as India and Africa, Podjail, YouTube, Hubhopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Repod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Listen Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbay, Verbal Podcast, Podcast Prodigy, Podcast in Public. If that's not enough, you can also follow on allfeeds.ai. Give that some praise because the robots are trying to take over, but we want to take our jobs back. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast streaming OTT on 4TV podcast platforms all over the universe. Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. I want to tell you with Big C Sports Podcast, I love doing out the PSA, our Veterans Crisis Hotline, because they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone, call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise because we all need somebody to lean on. I know I do. It's nice when somebody's leaning back. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then he said, let there be light. And I love saying let there be light to all the world. There's so much happening in the world of sports, college football, Big C style. The Washington Huskies ranked number 2 in the polls. They will take on the Michigan Wolverines, ranked number 1 in the polls. I just want to tell you, I'm also going to just touch base on the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. They defeated the Montana Grizzlies in the FCS championship game 23-3. I'll touch on that too. In a real fight, a Grizzly with Maul. It was Maul a Jackrabbit. This is in a football game, all fair and level work. I want to say thank you to T-Mobile, America's largest 5G network, proud sponsors of Big C Sports. I just needed some new cell phones, T-Mobile. That's what I want. I want to say thank you to CNN. This is CNN, proud sponsors of Big C Sports. I want to say thank you to PNC Private Bank, proud sponsors of Big C Sports. I want $6 billion. And I want it now. If that makes sense, then really do love so much that's going on in the world of sports. Now, obviously, show's a little bit different tonight. Everybody has their own way about doing things. And ironically, the Pac-12 is going away because they don't have the TV revenue share that the Big Ten was getting. So some of the schools decided they would go grab the money. I would hope that they would say that reparations is important to these young college athletes, as I think it is, and I knew that I think it is, but today's show is a little bit different. I will always champion reparations. I want to pay homage to a California reparations task force because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And if you don't believe that, then if you Google the names that I'm going to give you, they are part of the California reparations task force, and they were just here in June 29th of 2023. And the whole goal, just like Washington, they want to win a national championship. And Michigan, they want to win a national championship. Well, the Reparations Task Force, they also want to win a national championship. It's called Reparations Now, Reparations Forever. I don't want to get hoodwinked by the sports business. The sports business is a big business, and it's all driven by money. And reparations is about money. In the same way, we get our African Americans to stand up for the kickoff. Reparations. my part, I want to praise the California Reparations Task Force, the chair, she's Camilla Moore, she's brilliant. I love giving her praise. The vice chair, Dr. Amos C. Brown, he's brilliant. I love giving him praise. The number one senator in the United States of America, Senator Stephen Bradford, he's brilliant. I love giving him praise. He also sponsored Name, Image, and Likeness that helps college athletes get paid. He also helped create the Ebony Alert that helps law enforcement put the same amount of money into finding black children as they find in white children with the Amber Alert. And that's why. And he's also on the California Reparations Task Force. He's a sponsor of Assembly Bill 490. I really do appreciate Senator Stephen Bradford. Going to be meeting with him soon. I want to thank the council member Monica Montgomery Steppe. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Assembly member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank Dr. Shell Grill. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, also a professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. And I want to thank Attorney Donald K. Tamaki. He's part of the California Reparations Task Force. As a Japanese American, he already got reparations for the internment camp. I love giving him praise and have a conversation with him too. That's so important to me. We talked about Reparations Task Force. A member on our task force has already received reparations for something that was not as egregious as slavery. And that's Attorney Donald K. Tamaki. He spoke at the task force how he had received reparations already. You got to let that sink in. He said he's already gotten reparations for the internment camps that the United States set up after Pearl Harbor. We know it wasn't fair to intern people, but the nation did it because that's how they did it. They didn't intern white people. There were no white internment camps in the United States when any German American was living in the United States when we went to war. They didn't put them in internment camps. They sure did not, but they did it to our Japanese brethren, and they paid reparations for the harm. You know what had happened between World War I and World War II? You know what happened? Even if you look at the Korean War, the War of the Persian Gulf, you know what happened? Descendants of chattel slavery still were not given reparations. I know we want to stand up for the kickoff. Stand up for the kickoff! Because we can't wait to stand up for the kickoff down in Texas, where the slaves were finally known in 1865. That slavery had ended in 1863. And now they're standing up for the kickoff down in Texas at NRG Stadium in Houston. And we can do both. We can stand up for the kickoff, but we also got to shout that reparations are due for descendants of chattel slavery and at least give that some praise. And I love talking about it. I love it on Big C Sports. I want to thank Double O. He's part of the PF Committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. Sent me Executive Order 13985 on further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. That's called the White House. That's President Joe Biden. Also, Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Rick Scott of Florida. They reintroduced a bill to restore Holocaust survivors' rights in Congress over the summertime. You can Google it. I want to thank Georgetown University because they pledged over $1 billion in reparations to descendants of chattel slavery, the 272 families that were sold off to help pay off the debts for Georgetown. You ever sell something to pay off for debt? You ever sell something to pay off for debt? I said, have you ever sold something to pay off a debt? Maybe you sold some cans. You took some cans and turned them in to get some money for the cans. Maybe you took some plastic bottles and turned those in to get money for plastic bottles. Have you ever taken people and sold people to get some money? Well, the United States government allowed it to happen. Even the Dred Scott case where he was fighting for his freedom and he won his freedom. It was appealed by the slave owner, a woman, and it was overturned. He didn't give up. He kept appealing it. It wasn't just a one-time case. He kept appealing it. Isn't it amazing, a man fighting for his freedom and someone fighting to keep you in as a servant? They want you to be a servant. And I think about that because we're so focused on who's going to win this football game tonight between Washington and Michigan. I think the team, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think I'm going to be 100% right. The team that scores the most points tonight will win the national championship. Give that some praise. How about that, I have no idea who's going to win. I think Washington has the better offense. Michigan may have the better defense and the better coaching. I know people like Harbaugh. He's a great coach, but DeBoer, I think he's like a 114-12 as a head coach. Yeah, NAI has won, but he also won at Fresno State, and he won at Washington. He's 24-2 the last 2 years at Washington. Washington can throw the ball better than Michigan. Michigan may run the ball better than Washington, and I think the defenses will cancel each other out. That same defense in Washington that beat Texas in the Sugar Bowl, that team that Texas fielded, they beat Alabama at Tallahassee, 34-14. And then Washington beat that same Texas team at 37-31. So, it could have been worse than that. It was actually 37-30, beg your pardon. But no matter what it is, no, it's 37-31. No matter what it is, this is a great football matchup. Is Washington from the Pac-12 conference versus Michigan from the Big Ten conference, the last Pac-12 game. Isn't that something? The last Pac-12 game will be played for the national championship. I'll get into that more. It's a shame that conference went away. I want to thank Double O, national correspondent for the National Payout Committee for the Black Wall Street Project. She sent me this article from the United Nations that says that strong leadership and political will are crucial to ensure reparatory justice for people of African descent. Just like in tonight's game, strong will and leadership are important. You have two great programs, the Huskies and the Wolverines. Michigan and Washington. Ironically, Washington's last championship came against Michigan in the Rose Bowl back in 1991, the great late Donnie James. And Michigan's last national championship, they also won it by playing in the Rose Bowl. They were just ranking teams back then, but it's amazing. I know Michigan, the Washington game over Michigan, I think it was 35-14 when they won the national championship. And now you got the chance for Washington to end out this 2023-24 season with a win over the Michigan Wolverines. If it happens, we will see. And then Michigan, on the other hand, that's a team that likes to run the football. They like to get the ball in between those tackles and try to pound you. But Washington's defense is pretty sturdy as well. I would say, pound for pound, that Texas had better athletes than Michigan, especially the line play. And both teams they're loaded with talent. So this mysterious team called the Washington Huskies, they're only mysterious because they're undefeated and their winning streak stretches 20 games going into last year. But they're in one of the conference of champions that Bill Walton talks about all the time. The Pac-12 has more championships combined in all sports than any other conference in America. So how do they go away? Because of the TV revenue. And they didn't do it right. There were people that said they could not find the Pac-12 network on television. Like the NFL, if you want to watch some games, you got to watch streaming. You can't find all of the games if you go streaming because everybody doesn't have streaming devices. But that's part of life in the Pac-12. It's a shame the conference is going away, but some things you just got to keep moving forward. And the players, it's not the players' fault. It's the administrators that let this happen. They could have stuck together and gotten a better TV contract for the Pac-12. And people say, well, the Pac-12 doesn't play good football. That's not true at all. That's a lie. If you look at the conference records this year, the Pac-12 is 5-3 in bowl games. The Big 12 or the Big 10 is 5-3. The 10 that wins tonight will be 6-3 in bowl games. The team that loses their conference will be 5-4 in bowl games. That's better than the SEC. That many people and media people want to say is the best conference in the country. The SEC doesn't have a team playing for the national championship. It's the Big 10 and the Pac-12. The SEC got knocked out. Alabama, the SEC champion, they got knocked out by Michigan, went to overtime, and I thought that Alabama was going to win that game, but they did not. Michigan prevailed over Nick Saban. And then when you look at the Washington Huskies, there were many people thought they were not even going to win the Pac-12 conference over Oregon. But they found a way to do it. And now they find themselves here in Texas to win and play for another national championship. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I want to just say, because so many things are important, I would hope that it's even mentioned tonight on the national championship football game. A lot of these beautiful, intelligent black kids, they played with their heart, mind, body, and soul. But the way the country developed, it wasn't the same for everybody. And I know that young people, they're the vanguards for information. And I would hope that these young people are not just going to go out and bang heads together for a football game. And I hope that they will at least take on the cause of studying what is reparations when they get back to campus. What is reparations to you? It means to repair. Oh, there you go again, Big C, trying to repair things. Well, you know, the conference, the Pac-12, they're trying to repair also. Because when the conference was taken away, you know what they tried to do? They tried to repair the revenue stream. What do you mean by that, Big C? They repaired the revenue stream by joining the Big Ten because they're getting more TV revenue, even though they're in small and medium markets. How does that make sense? Because the way the contracts were negotiated. But they tried to repair it. Just like reparations, they tried to repair it to get their money. And they joined the Big Ten so they could get more money. And that's called repair. I don't know how anyone would say that they don't want to repair something. Everybody wants something to be repaired when it's broken. Even the system of reparations not being paid out, no one can argue that it has not been broken. It's been broken. And now they're trying to fix it. And I just appreciate the people, the lawmakers and politicians that are trying to fix this. I'm not just shucking and jiving. I'm more than just watching sports. And I do want to thank the office of Senator Stephen Bradford, because I went there and spoke with Gabriel Diaz, and I'll be talking with him soon with the National Black Wall Street Project, the inimitable Reverend Tony Pierce. Appreciate him. And Brother Aleem and Double O that went to the state capitol to talk to some policymakers, and obviously they've been doing some reconstruction with the capitol, and so they're on a different site about 2 blocks away. But the point is that we went there and made that happen. Well, why is that important to me? As we stand up for the kickoff, because NBC News, they did an article on a sports show called Big C Sports. And they asked Charlton Curry of Denver Hills, California, who discusses reparations on his Big C Sports podcast. And I said that cash payments are necessary. And that Money Talks, that article is written by NBC News March 30th, 2023, also picked up by CBS News, ABC News, Fox Sports. That's important because if the Associated Press can give a call to a sports show about reparations, what is our other brethren doing? I saw a program over the weekend, and it was Shannon Sharp, and he had Cat Williams on talking about some things that happened in Hollywood in the circles of entertainment. And while it was quite entertaining, they did not say anything about what would help the black diaspora of where they came from. And that's reparations. Not knocking them, they don't have to. But what is it about the most seminal moment in the history of the United States for black Americans, descendants of chattel slavery, that our senators, like Senator Stephen Bradford, he's giving commentary on reparations that will benefit our entire society. And there are many other of our brethren, they can do what they want to do. They have their own shows. What if they just took the same time to interview Senator Stephen Bradford about reparations for our society, for black families, men, women, and children, and to repair what our ancestry has stolen from them, and the future generations, what they will benefit from? What if those men took the same time to have the same type of courage to ask about reparations as we have about the dirty dozens on some other politician, or the dirty dozens on some entertainer, or the dirty dozens on some activist, or some, we had the Golden Globes on last night. They did not have any mention of reparations. We hope that everyone has a super fantastic time. But it's so important that we, when we get access to the airwaves, that we're not just shucking and jiving and trying to tear other black Americans down. We got to know that. Life is so important. And when the mainstream looks at us as black Americans, and I watched a program on Shannon Sharp that I covered playing football when he played for the Broncos, and Cat Williams, who I've never really watched him perform, but it was pretty interesting conversation. But what was missed, in my opinion, is that conversation of how you tear down other entertainers and other actors. How does that benefit black society? It could have been, it's like the ball's in the air, you're going to catch it or drop it. And if you get senators in the United States that are trying to repair what happened to our ancestry and for us currently and our future generations, politicians trying to repair it, But most black Americans, they want to watch people shucking and jiving and tearing people down and drinking alcohol on a television program. How does that benefit our society? What can a young kid learn about how to improve their lot in life by watching two grown men tear down people who look just like each other and drinking alcohol on television? Don't you know the gatekeepers want that? They want to see more drunken love sucking down the alcohol and tearing each other apart, like the Willie Lynch letter said. And if that's all you do, that's your choice. Nothing wrong with that if that's how you get down. But how's that going to benefit the future of black Americans? Really, how will it benefit us? I'm not saying we have to be linear in our thinking. It's okay for entertainment. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to cry. But when I look at our brethren, you get paid more money if you're a rapper to sing about the destruction of the black community and calling women out of their names. Call them out of their names, any derogatory name you can put, and you put a good beat behind it. You know, people will buy the songs. As long as you tell that black women is this, whatever you want to say that's negative. You rarely hear that about Caucasian entertainers. Even as I watched some of the Golden Globes last night, the audience is about 95% Caucasian. And when they got up, they gave awards for other Caucasians. There were very few people of color that got awards. But what I noticed that was conspicuously absent was an entertainer that would get up on the microphone and tear down another white entertainer. They were dressed in their finest attire. I didn't see them tearing down other entertainers that have the same kind of garbage in their background. But what is about our black brethren? With Cat Williams and Shannon Sharp, they were not edifying other people. Most of it was, how can we tear down another black person? And at the same time, I wonder what Senator Stephen Bradford thinks. Trying to get reparations for descendants of child slavery, black Americans. And then he sees us on a program, and it's just tearing each other down. I'm not saying it's not true, some of the things that are said, but there's a lot of times when you juxtapose what happened in the Golden Globes, those white actors, they were not there to tear other white actors down, even though they have their own dirt. They did not air their dirty laundry on television. They were there to celebrate. So what's different about our own black society? People don't always like what I say on Big C Sports. I'm not here to tear down other black men or black women. I'm just to point out facts. There are things that white society did. The government benefited white people. It's a factual thing. And you don't have to like it, but it's factual. But I'm always trying to offer a solution, and that's not necessary for everyone. But I just wonder how close we would be to reparations when we get our other black brethren to go on television and a Shannon Sharp and a Cat Williams, they edify other black Americans, black men and black women, black boys and black girls. Is there anything wrong with it? Are we so far gone that the only way we can sell for advertisers, hey, you guys, I got a program that can help you get rich. What do we have to do? What do we have to do, sir? You go down and you tear down other black people. I mean, tear them all down. Tell how bad they are, how they're no good, how they're part of some society where you got to get on your knees to get a job or get on that couch to get a job. Just make sure you put them out and air their dirty laundry. Well, if you got to get on your knees to get a job or lay on some couch to get a job, if white people control the industry, don't they have to do it too? But that's not what they did. They edified their other actors at the Golden Globes. And I know the low-hanging fruit will always tear each other apart. It's like the Willie Lynch letter said it would a long time ago. And I'm not saying you can't be entertained. Are you not yet entertained? We all love entertainment. Like I'm going to get entertained with this football game tonight. And I hope they talk about reparations. But when Big C Sports was interviewed by the #1 news outlet in the United States of America called the Associated Press, I wasn't shucking and jiving. I didn't tear down other black people. I didn't come on and say how somebody I didn't say anything disparaging to other black Americans. I just pointed out facts. Now, people don't have to follow that. They don't have to at all. In fact, some people say, man, you talk too much politics. Why don't you spin a show, why don't you get a show tearing other people down, Big C? Why don't you tell us how bad somebody is and who had to sleep with who to get a job, Big C? Why don't you come on and do that? Why don't you get on the show and talk about how many people were sleeping around on their knees to get a job? That's not my goal. So somebody has to do it, obviously. It's just a shame that reparations has Assembly Bill AB 490, and I guarantee you maybe less than 10% of black Americans even know about it. But the Cat Williams program with Shannon Sharpe had millions of followers. Let's watch these black men tear down other black men. Let's tear them down! And then we have these senators trying to get reparations for us. I mean, you can do what you want to do. It just shows you the state of our society when black Americans, you have an easier job getting work as long as you destroy other black people through your word. Talk about their mama, talk about who they've been sleeping with, talk about whatever their gender is, whatever they happen to be, what they do behind closed doors, as long as it's legal, why would I care? But it's a shame that we're so goated into giving a microphone to tear down other black men and women. And that gets most of us to follow, like the crabs in a barrel. Whatever happened to building each other up? To edify people? What's edify, Big C? Google it. Just Google it. We can Google anything. And again, life is what it is. I want to also say, give building up black Americans some praise. I know it may seem like it's far-fetched to even expect that nowadays. It's a shame. But if we put on anything derogatory about black folks, we'll buy the tickets. I went to go see The Color Purple over the weekend. The same, I think I saw it Saturday night. And on Friday, I was at California Senator Stephen Bradford's office. You know, he offered the bill AB 490 for reparations. And so I juxtaposed myself. The Senate Bill 490 is reparations for descendants of chattel slavery. And The Color Purple was entertainment. And that's all it is entertainment. It has some very poignant moments. I didn't like the way it showed some abuse going on from black men to black women, and the same abuse that went on from white society to black society. I didn't like that part. But what I do like is at the end, people atoned. One man, if you haven't seen it, I'm not trying to give away anything, but when you talk about trying to be abusive to your spouse, and that made the cut for Color Purple. That made the cut. When you talk about a love-making scene with your spouse, it was almost like a rape. And that made the cut. Oprah Winfrey's part of that. She signed off on it. I didn't see a man and a woman loving on each other. I saw some, but not the same level of the abuse. I saw some singing, great choreography, some great dancing. Now, I've helped my brothers build a barn and sheds and even build on to another wing of a home. Even have chainsaws chopping wood. I never saw one of my brothers as if he was chopping wood with an axe, dancing and shucking and jiving and singing and spinning around and dancing as if we're going to take an axe that can chop somebody's head off and then chop the wood. I never saw that. But that's part of the movie. The shucking and jiving. And that's okay. Some people only want to be entertained. Are you not yet entertained? Some people like being entertained. What I did like about The Color Purple, that reparations reminds me of Reparations. The man that was beating up his wife and slapping her around in the movie, they always had him as a drunkard. He was a drunk. What do they like to say about black folks? Oh, just let them sleep around with all the women they can. Let the women be loose. And, like the white women have done over the years. And like the white men have done over the years from all the rapes and the lynching they had. But at the end of the movie, the man who was the most egregious, he actually apologized. It didn't forgive what he had done, but he atoned for his behavior. He atoned for his sin. And what if the United States of America can atone for slavery through reparations? We go to see The Color Purple to watch us dance and sing and laugh and cry as we stand up for the kickoff. At the end, the man atoned for his sins. Can't we do that for reparations now? Reparations forever. that's my story. I'm sticking with it. Again, I'm going to say before I get into some football tonight, Google HR 40. It's a commission to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans. Google AB 3121. It's a legislative bill that details state of California reparations. You gotta know that's real, because Big C Sports is the only one that talks about it, and I want to make sure that we all understand it. We shall overcome when we understand that it's up to us to make it happen. We got to make it happen. I'm so proud to be a part of this. I want to do my part to make it happen. And then I want you to Google is Senate Bill 490. I believe I said AB 490, but it's Senate Bill 490 by Senator Bradford. And it talks about what resource or programs are available to create the Freedmen's Bureau of California. It was in office the same time The Color Purple was released. How many black Americans know about it? We say we love our ancestry. We are proud people where we come from. All life began on the African continent. All of it. The Egyptian pyramids, they were not built in Rome. They were not built in Russia. They were not built in Australia. They're on the African continent. And I just want to make sure that what I do with my own platform, I want to reach out and touch somebody and say, can we talk about Senator Bradford, what he's doing in California, and give him some praise the way we score for touchdowns and cheer for touchdowns? I think it's even more important. I really do. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I love giving praise to my family legacy. We'll always do that. To my beautiful mother's side, my grandmother Mamo, my great-grandmother Mamo, my great-grandfather Pop, my beautiful grandmother Madia, my beautiful grandfather Hezekiah, and I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coached an all-boys Little League baseball team to a championship. Always stand, rise, and shine. The best person I ever met in my life. I love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. On my father's side, my grandfather, Albert Curry, my grandmother, Alberta Curry, my father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. My beautiful brother Todd, with that bombastic voice. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always saying go forward. My beautiful brother Todd, with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. A voracious reader. Love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees, in 3.5 years with honors. Set up the very first interview for Big C Sports. You can be anything you want. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17. That no weapon formed against you will prosper. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful handsome son Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College student, very smart, erudite, a good man. I'm telling you, Malcolm helped me save trees. He used to say, Dad, Google what you want. You don't have to tear up all those newspapers. And then he also told me, do you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, say play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. And that's before it was even on the air. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul, Malcolm. You can be anything you want to be. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17. And then Big C with all that wealth of knowledge over the years saying you gotta believe, you gotta believe, you gotta believe, but let's get ready to rumble. I love to say welcome to the show. ASP nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no 3-bit teleprompter. I have no producer in my ear. But I'm going to tell you what I think about football. I love the game. It's an amazing sport, and people love it. It brings people together. It teaches men and women how to work together. Coaches, administrators, everybody. It's just part of this great fabric of America that we call sports, a billion-dollar industry. And boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. But I tell everybody the same way I love football and basketball and baseball. You can Google Survivors Today Act of 2017. The Justice for Uncompensated Survivors Today Act of 2017 is United States legislation that requires the State Department to report to Congress on steps that 47 countries in Europe have taken to compensate Holocaust survivors and their heirs for assets seized by Nazi Germany and post-war communist government. Google it. Survivors Today Act of 2017. As we are standing up for the kickoff. At some point in time, when we get our brethren on television, let's try not to tear each other down. I know we get more views when we tear each other down because the mainstream set it up that way. They will tell you with their robots you're getting more views if you set it up that way. Big C Sports, out of 250,000 podcasts around the world that come out of the iHeartRadio app, you know Big C Sports is in the top 1%. Out of 250,000! Give that some praise! I'm one beautiful, intelligent black man. Only thing I want to poke my finger at and shine my flashlight on is the truth. Things you can Google it. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Give that some praise. As we stand up for the kickoff, I want to congratulate South Dakota State. They beat Montana 23-3 to win their second straight FCS National Football Championship. They did that January 7th, beg your pardon. Now they stand alone atop the FCS ranks for the second straight season. The Jackrabbits, they are number one in the country in the FCS. They finished an undefeated season for 2023. It was a 23-3 win against number 2 Montana. It was Sunday's FCS National Championship game from Toyota Stadium in Frisco, Texas. And South Dakota State is the first program to win consecutive FCS titles since North Dakota State's impressive run from 2017 to 2019. And at the same time, it doesn't get as much publicity as we're going to get tonight with Michigan and also Washington. But I want to give them some praise because it's hard to go undefeated, and they deserve that championship that they won. And now, as we stand up for the kickoff. You got the University of Washington Huskies and the University of Michigan Wolverines. Tonight's the night. What did Two Live Crew say? Tonight's the night. It's going to be all right. That wasn't Two Live Crew, Big C. That was Rod Stewart. Well, it was Rod Stewart. But tonight, number 1 Michigan facing number 2 Washington at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas for the college football playoffs national championship. Next year it goes to 12 teams. This year's just 4. It will expand to 12 next year. But the winner of this much anticipated showdown is going to emerge as the last undefeated team standing in the FBS while bringing home the first college football national title for their school of the college football playoffs era, or the BCS era. Michigan last won the national championship in 1997, the year before the BCS system went into effect. You recall they did the Associated Press in the coaches poll, and they would just vote on the champion. Now you got to play for the championship, and I like it. I like this system much better. I'm going to like it even more when it goes to 12 games. That way, even Georgia would have been invited had it been in 12 games this year, as well as Florida State. But we saw what happened with Florida State. Now, Washington's last title came in 1991, the year I actually visited Husky Stadium. This season, the Wolverines and the Huskies used contrasting styles, running their table through their respective conferences. But Washington's last national championship, it came by beating Michigan in the Rose Bowl. I think the score was, it was 35-14, I believe, somewhere around there. And it was Billy Joe Hobart was a backup quarterback. Mark Brunell was a starting quarterback. I remember Bino Bryant playing tailback for Washington. I remember Napoleon Kaufman also playing running back for Washington. Those guys went in the NFL, and I think the great Lincoln Kennedy also played in that game for the Washington Huskies under the late Donnie James. But now, when you look at these contrasting styles, the Huskies use contrasting styles running the table through their respective conference, and they squeaked out close wins against teams like Oregon and Oregon State, and beat Oregon twice. And I tell you, when they put the ball in the air, it's hard for anyone to beat them. They passed for 460 yards against Texas last week. The great Michael Penix II, that guy is amazing. I think he'll have another 380-plus yards passing. He may hit 400 yards passing tonight, but I think it's between 350 and 380. And just my opinion, I may be wrong, but you throw for 460 yards against Texas, and all those DBs are like NFL caliber DBs, and that big beefy Texas line, I know people like Michigan in this game. If they can control the ball, then maybe they'll squeak out a win. But if this is a shootout, you can't keep up with Washington. Now, Michigan has a nasty defense going against the likes of Washington elite passing attack. It makes for a compelling game. You got the pass-happy Washington Huskies versus the run-heavy Michigan Wolverines. I'm telling you, it's a great way to close out the Final Four because it expands next year. But what I love about these two teams, when you look at Michael Penix Jr., he's the most important player in the stadium tonight. Don't get it twisted. He's the most important player. In Washington, quarterback Michael Penix, he'll be the number 1 draft pick in the NFL by people who see talent. A good old boy from down south told me about it. He's a 6-year senior. He's 25-2 in 2 seasons with the Huskies after a promising but injury-plagued run at Indiana over 4 seasons. While the Hoosiers and Phoenix played under second-year Washington coach Kalen DeBoer, who was then serving as Indiana's offensive coordinator. He's seen Michigan's offense before. The two reunite at UW in 2022, and the results have been amazing. Now, this is why NFL coaches and scouts love the Washington passing attack. Phoenix has passed for 4,600 yards each of the past 2 years. That's 9,200 yards passing in 2 years. And he finished second in Heisman Trophy voting this season. He's accurate. He reminds me, I was talking to a former football player today that played with Steve Young with the 49ers. I said, doesn't he remind you of Steve Young? He's a run-pass option. He's very accurate with the ball. He's amazing. In the Sugar Bowl against the Big 12 champ in Texas, that same Texas that beat Alabama 34-14 down in Tuscaloosa, he passed for 430 yards. And it could have been more. There were a couple of drops. His top target is receiver Rome Odunze, who might be the second receiver taken in the draft, all behind Harrison of Ohio State. But he has 87 receptions, 1,553 yards. He'll go over 100 yards tonight and 13 touchdowns. And then he has another receiver, Jalen Polk, and Jaden McMillan, as well as tight end Jack Westover, will also be a handful for Michigan's defense. I think Washington's going to pass for over 380 yards tonight because they can. Well, wait, what about Michigan, Big C? Well, Michigan's defense is known as a nasty defense, and I thought they had a lot of sacks on Alabama, but Alabama, they're not even the same kind of passing league as Washington. So the reputation of Wolverines' defense precedes it for a reason. They enter-ranked number 1 nationally in yards allowed per game. But when I look at Ohio State, they were blasted by Missouri in the bowl game. Penn State lost in their bowl game. Those were some of the toughest opponents for Michigan. Playing Iowa, Iowa's not a good team. Washington's a different breed of cat or dog, if that makes sense to you. Now, Michigan entered the number 1 nationally in yards allowed per game at 243. Nobody surpassed 400 yards or 24 points against Michigan until tonight when Washington would do it. They held Alabama to a season low of 288 yards. Alabama just could not throw the football. They don't have the same kind of passing attack. But they beat Alabama 27-20 in the Rose Bowl. Washington beat, I'm telling you, they jumped all over Texas, and Texas jumped all over Alabama. Now, when you think about Michigan's secondary, they have 4 players ranked in the top 75 based on some draft prognosticators. But be that as it may, the Wolverines, they had 6 sacks in the Rose Bowl against Alabama. But Alabama, their quarterback is not Michael Penix Jr. He doesn't stand in the pocket for 8 seconds waiting to throw the ball. He gets rid of the ball fast. I just think that this game is such a great game for college football. Michigan's been dominant all season, but they've won close games. The Wolverines have outscored opponents by an average of 25 points per game. I just told you, the Big Ten is a run-heavy conference. They don't see the passing game the way Washington does. But Washington's margin of victory is 13.5. That means they've also trailed in only 5 games, which is tied for fewest of any team in the country. Washington has won 10 straight games by 10 points or less, so they can win a close game. The Huskies have been far less dominant than Michigan, but look at what the Pac-12 has done in their bowl games. The Pac-12 has won, they're 5-3, and the Big Ten's 5-3. Tonight, the team that wins, the conference will have more of a better bowl record. Yeah, Big C, but what does Las Vegas think? Well, Las Vegas thinks they have Michigan as a 4.5-point favorite. And if they can control the ball and keep Phoenix off the field, then maybe they have a chance to win this game. But Washington's defense is good too. The over-under is 56.5. Washington is the kind of team they can get 30 all by themselves, maybe even 35. And that's my point. They can play with the best of them in the Huskies. Because when you're always having to track a team that's going to throw deep 30, 40 yards downfield, you can't stack the box and try to rush the quarterback. He'll just throw over the top of you. If you drop back in coverage, they have a run game that can get you underneath. Plus a quarterback that can scramble. So for Washington, a shootout game, Washington can win it. If Michigan can win it, you'll look at maybe a 28-24 game. I just don't see anyone keeping Washington from getting to 31 points. I don't see that happening. Not with a dry field. They could have had 45 versus Texas. So based on what does Michigan have to do, they gotta pick up first downs with running back Blake Crum in the running game. They have to try to wear down the Husky defense, but Texas couldn't do it. And no one can tell me that Michigan has a better defensive front and offensive front than Texas. Texas has as many NFL caliber athletes and probably more than Michigan. But to me, it's about, can a team throw the ball deep and have success with the deep ball and throw underneath and also have some run out of the backfield? I think that's what Washington brings to the game. Michigan, I'm not fearing Michigan throwing deep downfield. Their game, if they can do the Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler style, ground out on the ground and maybe come away with a 28-24 win, that's their best hope. But how you keep Michael Penix and company, the best offense in college football, how you keep them from putting up 30 points or 35 points in the game? Texas couldn't do it. And I think Texas has more athletes on their defensive line than Michigan had. So my pick is I got Washington because they just have a better passing game. Both teams can run the ball. They'll have success running the ball. But Michigan struggled with an Alabama team that could not run the ball. And they could not pass the ball very well. Alabama was just out of sorts, it seems. But when they backed up the quarterback, he would hold the ball for 5 or 6 seconds and then get sacked. You're not going to find that with Washington. If Michigan wins, they'll have a dominant run game. That's their hope. They're not going to win it by passing for 400 yards. They may be lucky to pass for 200 yards in this game. But Washington's going to put up a lot of points, I think. And if there's no turnovers, maybe both teams will have a turnover. But I like what Washington's doing if they can close out the Pac-12 championship by winning a national championship. I got Washington 35 and Michigan 31. I think Michigan can struggle to get to 30, but Washington will get over 30 easier. And in Washington, they boast the longest winning streak in the college football at 21 games, featuring 9 wins over top 25 teams and 4 wins over top 10 teams. So people say Michigan's tough and physical. Well, Washington's tough and physical. But I think the guy you watch tonight is the Huskies, and that's Michael Penix II. He's going to be the first pick in the NFL draft because he's that good. He's like a Southpaw Warren Moon, if that makes sense to you. He reminds me of Mark Brunell for the Huskies when they won their last national title. But he can throw the ball like Billy Joe Hobart that played for the Huskies when they won their last national title. Nothing against Michigan. Michigan's a very good team, and they're coached by Jim Harbaugh, will most likely be coaching in the NFL next year. But I got to go with Coach DeBoer tonight because he knows how to coach a team that can win by a blowout, but he also knows how to coach a team that can win a close game. And I think tonight is a culmination of college football. The winner will be an undefeated team, the national champion for college football. But I hope they start chanting, reparations now, reparations forever. That's what I see this young college kids. They say, why do you always talk about reparations? Well, as we stand up for the kickoff, Coach Jim Harbaugh, he makes a plea for major cuts to pay college players, robbing the same train. He says Jim Harbaugh's getting ready for a national title game. That hasn't stopped him from giving his thoughts on the overall state of college football. The Michigan head coach, while speaking with reporters Saturday before today's Monday night football game, national championship game against Washington, he said it's time for listen up, Black Americans. Listen up, Hollywood. Listen up, Shannon Sharp. He said it's time for players to be involved in a revenue-sharing plan. Revenue-sharing plan? I keep talking about reparations. He's 60 years old. He says for 5 to 10% cuts of the coaches and administrators' salaries and television deals to make the idea happen. There used to be a saying that old coaches, my dad used it, my brothers used it, we're all robbing the same train. And Jim Harbaugh said something I like. He says, the administrators, the coaches, and all the media television money and the stations and the conferences that make up the NCAA, and the ones that are really, think about it, the ones that can really get hurt are getting a very small piece, the name, image, and likeness. So that needs to change too. That needs to change. I just told you that Senator Bradford, he created name, image, and likeness for college kids to get paid. And Big C Sports is meeting with him. The same Big C Sports that was written up by the Associated Press for reparations on the sports show is talking to Senator Bradford's office. And now Jim Harbaugh saying the same thing. I'm talking about reparations, but these colleges, they've been robbing these athletes for way too long. Especially the black kids that they get out of the neighborhoods that don't have the same opportunities historically that white kids have had. It's one thing to say that well, they're getting NIL money, but the billions of dollars are being generated. They're not getting very much of that. That goes into white people's bank accounts. Like Freedman's Bank, where the white advisor stole all the money from the black depositors. It's a very small percentage for NIL. It's only for the top players. And it needs to change. I'm proud of Jim Harbaugh talking about this. It's not just Big C Sports. TV is a multi-billion-dollar business. And most of those bank accounts go to white people. It's one thing for someone to say NIL is great, and it is great. But there are billions of dollars being generated. They're not getting much or a very small percentage. They're getting the same amount that a lot of people got that have coaching jobs. But most of those coaching jobs are held by white men. You got to realize, if you're getting a scholarship, room and board, books and tuition, so it's like, come on, let's do the right thing here. The colleges are keeping most of that money. Harbaugh makes about $8 million a year base salary, based on what happened, what the reports that came out in November. It would take less money on his deal if it meant that players would be getting compensated. We know the paper bag test a lot of players have to do in order to eat. But it's good to have an insider like a Jim Harbaugh say that we need to do right by the players. We're going to eat fine. And for Jim Harbaugh to say that, it's like he's telling the truth. And colleges need to relook at what they're doing. They're still, for the most part, it's exploitation. And when you say, well, you get a scholarship, room and board, you got to go bang your head up against another player for 3 hours in a football game. I think it's worth the conversation. So as I say, people watch what they want to watch for entertainment. I'm always trying to find a way to get more money into the pockets of these student athletes, because the coaches are getting it, the administrators are getting it, and it's nice when they start looking at the product that they put on the field to help make the money. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Now, and he's a white guy saying it. I'm a black man saying it. We can all agree. Start helping the athletes even more. But hopefully Jim Harbaugh will not be so passive when he champs reparations now, reparations forever. That's my story, and I stick it with. May the best team win the national championship. Well, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You could call Uber, you could call Lyft, you could walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car when they've been drinking and start driving. The life you save may be your own. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Juberdine Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to say reparations now, reparations forever. And then I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee. My beautiful mother always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. If you know anybody going through that garbage, pick up the phone and call 911. Because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that crap. And people change when the police show up. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Big C, what about President Abraham Lincoln? That's right. And now I want to honor, as we stand up for the kickoff, what did President Abraham Lincoln want for descendants of chattel slavery. He says, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. President Abraham Lincoln gave reparations to the slave owners. He was going to do it for the black folks next. He should have did it black folks first. That's why I say chant reparations now, reparations forever. As you stand up for the kickoff, think about what Jim Harbaugh just said. Stop robbing those kids. Think about what happened in the color purple. When he did wrong, he atoned. Come on, President Biden. It's not that hard to do. It's right there in front of you. All you got to do is do what President Abraham Lincoln did. When he said, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.